Hello, you're watching DD India and I'm Preeti presenting this special edition Budget 2020-21 report card. And when we talk of this special show, this is a 1-hour show we get for you every day wherein we pick up different aspects of the economy which talk of how far is the economy progressing and what is the road ahead. Today we will talk about two important schemes which have been put forth by the Modi government. As we all know, the Modi government has time and again reiterated its resolve to shift focus to making new and renewable energy part of our daily lives and also making sure that it earns dividends for the farmers as well in pursuit of its ambition of doubling the farmers' income by 2022. Today in this special edition we will take up Pradhan Mantri Kusum scheme, that is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Utthan Maha Abhiyan scheme, and we will talk about it in detail. We will also talk about the Ujala scheme, that is Unnat Jyoti by affordable LEDs for all, and how far have these schemes been successful in changing lives. We will talk about that. We will also have guests joining in and it's a packed 1 hour ahead. Let's begin the show with Pradhan Mantri Kusum scheme first. As we told you, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Utthan Maha Abhiyan, that is PM Kusum scheme, was initiated by Government of India to increase the income of farmers and provide source for irrigation and de-dieselize the farm sector. What all has been done and on what scale is this scheme progressing? Let's get that in this special report.
The Union government has been encouraging farmers towards the usage of solar energy through different schemes. PM Kusum Yojana is an important step to connect the agricultural sector with the modern technology. The scheme contributes towards combating environmental pollution, reducing imports for diesel and solar cells, and enhancing farmers' income. It also results in substantial savings to the DISCOMs because of reduced burden of subsidies on agriculture.
I had stated that Annadata can be Urja Data also. The PM Kusum scheme removed farmers' dependence on diesel and kerosene and linked pump sets to solar energy. Now I propose to expand the scheme to provide 20 lakh farmers for setting up standalone solar pumps. Further, we shall also help another 15 lakh farmers solarize their grid-connected pump sets. In addition, a scheme to enable farmers to set up solar power generation capacity on their fallow and barren lands and to sell it to grid would be operationalized.
Over 22 million grid-connected agriculture pumps installed in the country annually consume around 200 billion units, which is 18% of the total electricity consumption. 11 major states of the country consumes 95% of electricity consumption on agriculture and are providing over rupees 1000 billion as electricity subsidy for agriculture. The subsidized agriculture electricity is seen as a major cause for poor financial health of DISCOMs, and government has so far issued 3 bailout packages for DISCOMs. On the other hand, farmers are complaining of irregular supply of electricity, especially during night. The solarization of the electric pumps has been considered as possible solution that will not only provide reliable daytime power but will also reduce subsidy burden on DISCOM and states. This will also provide additional source of income to farmers by selling the surplus power to DISCOMs. The Prime Minister Kusum Yojana has come out as a boon to the farmers and turned the Annadata into an Urja Data. The scheme consists of 3 components. Component A, 10,000 megawatt of decentralized ground-mounted grid-connected solar power plants, each with a capacity of up to 2 megawatt. Component B, installation of 20 lakh standalone solar-powered agricultural pumps. And in Component C, solarization of 15 lakh grid-connected solar-powered agricultural pumps. All the 3 components combined, the scheme aims to add a solar capacity of 30.8 gigawatt by 2022. Under the scheme, the landowner will get an income of rupees 60,000 to 1 lakh rupees per acre per year for the next 25 years by installing a solar power plant. Under the scheme, farmers will be provided solar pumps at a cheaper rate. Under the scheme, the farmers will have to pay only 10%. While 60% of the amount will be given by the government, the remaining 30% will be given by banks. The scheme is expected to benefit more than 3 crore farmers by 2022, and it is expected to be a game changer for the farmers as it not only generates free electricity for irrigation but also gives them an opportunity to earn money by selling it to the power grid. If a farmer has a barren land, it can also be used to install more solar panels. Taposh Bhattacharya's report, TD India.
Pradhan Mantri Kusum scheme, explaining to you what are the components of the scheme. To talk more about it, let's bring in our guest this afternoon. We're joined in by Mr. Tirthankar Goyal. He is the CEO, TG Consulting Think Global. We are also to be joined in by Dr. Praveen Saxena, CEO, Skill Council for Green Jobs, Skill India Mission, and in a short while from now we will also be joined in by Mr. Sai Baba Vutukuri, CEO, Vikram Solar Limited. At present we will go across to Mr. Goyal. Welcome sir to the special edition budget program. Today we are talking of Pradhan Mantri Kusum Yojana, and we've given a detailed report to our viewers explaining to them what is this scheme all about. To begin with, I would want you to let us know how far have we come when we talk of on one hand the aim of the government of doubling the farmers' income by 2022. At the same time, the push of solar energy into agriculture sector. How far and to what extent have we come forth?
First of all, good afternoon, namaste.
Good afternoon,
Ms. Preeti and all our view. So just to start with, I would just for the benefit of our viewers, I would like to give the snapshot of this renewable energy sector. The job creation, the investment coming, Atmanirbhar Bharat and Pradhan Mantri Kusum Yojana, and how far it has been successful, and the industry demand. So if you then I would request you to please allow me a few minutes just to give
please continue.
Snapshot to our audience, and just for the solar industry as a whole, or rather the renewable energy. So renewable energy, in my opinion, is becoming the centerpiece of India electricity plan. Even as COVID-19 has caused disruption in the entire economic spheres, the sector has continued to perform robustly. In the last 6 months, bids for the installation of over 15,000 megawatt solar and wind capacity have been finalized. Under the Paris Climate Agreement, India has pledged to reduce the emission intensity of its GDP by 33 to 35% from 2005 levels, and achieve about 40% of cumulative electric power generation capacity from non-fossil fuels by 2030. It has set the ambitious target for achieving total installed renewable energy capacity of 175 gigawatt by 2022, with 100 gigawatt coming from solar and 60 gigawatt coming from wind. India total renewable energy capacity has grown 2.5 times, and the solar energy about 13 times since 2014, making it the fourth largest in the world. In my opinion, renewable energy now constitute about 24% of the country's installed power capacity, and growth of 12% of the total electricity generation. And if one includes hydropower, India renewable energy installed capacity is 36%, and electricity generation about 24%. Around 48 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity is under installation, and additional 26 gigawatt have been tendered, making the total capacity around already commissioned or in the pipelines around 163 gigawatt. So in this total renewable sector, there has been the huge investment coming from outside India, which I will be, if you ask me later on, I will be speaking later on. But in the opening comments, the renewable energy program is driven by the private sector investment. During the last 6 years, it has attracted over 4.7 lakh crores investment, including FDI of around 42,000 crores. The sustained participation of nearly all major global funds is an indicator of strong fundamentals that directly translate into the investment opportunity over 1 lakh crore per year in India. India is also focusing on making renewable energy manufacturing self-reliant. A growing domestic demand for the equipment, particularly solar voltaic cells and modules, provides avenues for transforming India into the significant hub for renewable energy manufacturing. To provide an assured market, a number of Government of India schemes have a precondition of domestic content requirement aimed at directly creating a domestic demand of more than 36,000 of solar PV and modules over the last 2 years. So in that context, the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Utthanam Mahabhyam, which we call a PM Kusum scheme, is in place to enhance farmer income, reduce diesel use on farms, ensure availability of power, secure power and water supply, and reduce the subsidy burden on states. Under it, renewable energy plants of 20 gigawatt capacity will be installed. 20 lakhs standalone pumps will be replacing diesel pumps, and 15 lakhs grid connected pumps will be solarized. So solarization of agriculture feeder is also included in the scheme to significantly reduce the subsidy burdens on states. So as we go forward, I would request you. I mean, if you can ask me later on. These were just my the opening comments. So in terms of the its performance, challenges, taking it forward.
Yes. These are the other aspects which we have to take up. But success of any scheme introduced at the center also calls for effective implementation, efficient implementation at the state level. How far is the consensus between the center and the state, important and key to the success of this scheme? Because states, there are various states in the country as well where such parallel schemes are also running at the state level. So what is to be done at that, in those specific areas?
So first of all, as you rightly mentioned, it requires the implementation part of this scheme lies under the state governments, and there requires a very effective coordination between the state government and the central government. So, in my opinion, so far I have since I've been working with practically all state governments. So far, one of the comment I would like to make it where there is a state government which is in line with the central government. The scheme has been implemented quite successfully. For example, UP, I have observed that this scheme has been there's a lot of enthusiasm among the state government to make it happen, and so state central political equation is one of the things which I have which I have seen in my opinion is one of the major factor. Also, I think this scheme, the government of India has also offered a lot of subsidy. So now it is up to the state government how they would like to implement and benefit the people in their own state, in their own states.
All right. Also, when we talk of implementation of the scheme, then the use of off-grid solar pumps with no practical running expenses would also somewhere lead to say overuse of the infrastructure. In that case, how far does it lead to depletion of the groundwater? How big is this concern when we talk of implementation of the scheme in the rural areas?
Sorry, I think I'm losing your voice. Hello?
Yes. If I'm audible.
No, you're not audible to me.
All right, we'll try getting back to you in a short while from now. At present, we tell our viewers who are joining in that we are running special editions of Budget 2021 shows, wherein we are picking up specific schemes, specific initiatives, specific measures which have been put in by the government to ensure that we achieve self-reliant India, that we achieve Atmanirbharta. And in the run-up to that, this is a 1 hour show which we introduced every day, and we pick up different issues, different topics. And today we are talking about Pradhan Mantri Kusum scheme and Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala scheme. To talk about it more, we are joined in by another guest. We are joined in by Dr. Praveen Saxena, CEO, Skill Council for Green Jobs, Skill India Mission. We welcome you, sir, to the show. Thank you for joining in. We're talking of Pradhan Mantri Kusum scheme, and we've given a broad outline of our viewers to what is the content of the scheme, but I would want you to talk more about its implementation. Where are we standing and what is the road ahead?
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure being here with Doordarshan and really expressing our viewpoint on how effective the solar implementation would be typically for the Kusum scheme, where we are really reaching to the most ground attached situation. In fact, I overheard you were asking from the previous speaker about the groundwater situation if we use extensively solar pumps. And what happens is in solar pumps, as soon as it is almost a direct connection, and as soon as the sun rises, the pump starts working, and it continues to work till the sun is there on the sky. So yes, that is a situation when water is being extracted continuously. There would be some difficulties in groundwater. But one thing we will have to understand, that we are talking of ground itself. So when the water is pumped, it is given to the ground. It is not something which you are consuming. It is actually going back to the ground. Yeah, temporarily there could be some sort of mismatches, but finally the water is extracted from that particular point and going into the ground. So as a technical person, we would not take it as a very serious problem, because the water gets seeped in right there, and some evaporation is there definitely, but I don't see this as being a major challenge, technical major challenge in implementing this scheme. As far as Kusum scheme is concerned, some broad numbers were given by my previous speakers as to where we are and how we are, but probably I can say that this is one of the best schemes launched by Government of India. It is connecting the high technology which is made quite simple by our technical development to benefiting the most poor. I will not say most poor, but at least the most people who would require it. So water becomes important, and it becomes a chain for the entire rural and urban connects. If agriculture is not there, then what urban people would do? So this is one of the most beautiful schemes. It's a matter of implementation. Since I belong to Skill Council for Green Jobs, and Skill Council is the organization which is looking at skilled manpower, to meet all renewable energy programs and schemes. In fact, this council was created as part of Skill India mission only to look after various renewable energy skilled manpower requirements. So we are extremely happy. We are extremely prepared to get this implemented through skilled manpower. And now we have started talking of district level committees in skill development. From this year onwards, the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 3, which is directly connected to the districts, and the Skill Council for Green Jobs is now looking at what kind of challenges we will face in making these schemes most effective. We are looking at Kusum scheme, and we are trying to see that we provide the most skilled manpower to not only install water pumping system, but also see that its operation and maintenance is done properly. This also offers a very good opportunity for entrepreneurship development. Yes, because we are also seeing it as a couple of youngsters joining together and looking at a battery of pumps, solar pumps, for their operation and maintenance.
All right, we will take that forward in a while from now.
Very effective scheme and very nice scheme.
All right, from here we are joined in by our other guest, Mr. Sai Baba Vutukuri. He's CEO of Vikram Solar Limited. We welcome you, sir, to the show. And we're talking about Pradhan Mantri Kusum scheme. And we have been talking about different aspects, but you know, as the CEO of Vikram Solar Limited, I would want you to evaluate for us, how do you gauge the foray of solar energy into the agriculture sector, and how far will it pay the dividends of the ambition which the government has had of doubling the farmers' income by 2022? To begin with this, we would want your opening remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I must say that. I mean, this is a great scheme. I think it is a noble cause to increase the farmers' income, double the farmers' income. I think that's a basic fundamental thing which is required in this country. Farmers are suffering the most, unfortunately. They don't get right prices. They don't get they don't have right infrastructure. They don't have they don't get the seeds, water, everything in time. It's a big challenge for all the governments. For many years. I think this is one wonderful thing scheme, Kusum. The beauty of solar is distributed generation. You can produce power through solar in a few watt peak or few kilowatts to megawatts of power generation is possible with solar. This kind of a flexibility is only with solar. No other energy source is able to give this kind of a flexibility. And bringing this technology direct to the farmers is the best thing to happen. If you see the core of problems what DISCOMs are facing in the country, in the power sector, you would have seen many of the DISCOMs are absolutely bankrupt. Many of the DISCOMs are not able to honor their PPAs and all that. Some of the things are basically because of the enough revenue are not being generated by DISCOMs from various power what they're selling, whether it is agriculture power, whether it is power to the consumers. The enough recovery is not happening. A lot of losses are happening. And as you know, substantial portion of power is used for agricultural usage by the pump sets. By actually solving this problem, making the power available to the farmer for his agricultural pump sets, okay, it is going to solve basic fundamental problem of DISCOMs itself. That's a beauty of it. Second thing, it can actually increase the farmer's income substantially. I think, the doubling farmer's income, probably a larger portion can come from this Kusum scheme. Because if the water is available, farmer can produce more and more crops. Probably instead of one crop, depending on the rain-fed kind of a farming, and the water canal kind of a thing, he can actually produce more output. Maybe 2 crops he can cultivate every year and produce more output. And the second thing, farmers generally has to wait probably hours together. They don't know when the power is going to come for the agriculture pump set. That problem also will get substantially reduced because he is able to generate power and use the power for pumping the water. Third thing, very important thing, the beauty of solar is you can do the distributed generation. You can make, instead of doing a centralized solar farms, most of the centralized solar farms are either in Rajasthan, Gujarat, or AP, or where the agricultural land is abundant. The dry lands are abundantly available. So we're doing a centralized farms and building a large infrastructure and all that to transport power from northern part of India to various other parts of the country. Instead, why don't we actually make Indian agriculturists as energy farmers?
Right.
So it's completely a revolutionary kind of a disruptive kind of a thought, because every farmer can produce not only for pumping water, they can actually produce power and feed into the grid, maybe 0.5 megawatt or 1 megawatt.
Yes.
If you're able to empower these farmers with the lakhs of farmers, they can actually generate power. One source of income for them is agriculture. The other source of income could be energy farming. The first step for this could be Kusum. Once they get used to that, they can actually get into generation of power at the farm level and feed into the grid.
All right, Mr. Goyal, when we were talking of, the different aspects and how far and to what extent have we come when we talk of implementation of the scheme, there was also this, thought of the international investment or the FDI in the scheme and the implementation. What role does FDI, and to what extent can FDI provide further fillip to the scheme?
So I think it's a wonderful question. Thank you very much. So before that, I would just like to tell the kind of an investment which is happening, and then we take it forward for the solar connected farm. These have rated India as the most attractive nation for investment in the renewable energy sector. So the government of India has taken a lot of actions like waiver of the interstate transmission charges for sale of solar and wind power. The renewable purchase obligation transaction that set renewable energy target for states, focus on maintaining sanctity of the contracts, establishing dedicated project development and foreign investment cells, putting in place the payment security mechanism, permits of FDI up to 100% under the automatic route, and relief or extension for projects that faced COVID disruptions are the measures undertaken to accelerate pan-India this renewable energy development. So I would like to just state that due to this private sector, it has attracted around 4.7 lakh crores investment, including FDI of around 42,700 crores in India. Now, coming back to this grid-connected solar pumps, a lot of outside companies are coming in India, and they would like to part of the program in India. So just recently, 1 week back, there has been an announcement by the big French group, Total, for investing around 18,500 crores in the Adani Green Company. So that shows that India is a big market when it comes to this renewable energy sector. And apart from that, the kind of pumps which are there. So whole world which are making this solar pump, they are attracted by the numbers, which runs into millions and millions. And there's further, there is an international solar alliance,
Yes.
which is going for development of the three phase of the grid. The phase one, the Middle East, South Asia, Southeast Asia, this MESCA interconnection, solar and other renewable energy resources rich region interconnection. Third is the global interconnection. So for that, they have got a funding of around 6,025 million from the World Bank in the concession loans to the State Bank of India to debt finance GRP projects in three phases. So I think all over the world there has been a huge investment in India, and so particularly I would like to again state that International Solar Alliance is one of this area which is taking it forward. The development of region, particularly in the Middle East and Africa, making investment leading to the job creation in India and completing the vision of the Atmanirbhar Bharat in India.
Yes.
So I think in the time to come, you will see a lot of companies, they would like to invest in this grid-connected solar, keeping in mind their numbers, further reducing the cost and taking it forward. If it is, as I said earlier, if the states are ready to implement it proper, it can be a huge success starting from India, leading to the global market to Africa and Middle East.
All right. Also, we tell our viewers that we are also talking about solar parks and the Ujala scheme by the government. As we know, renewable energy adoption is vital for a coal-dependent nation like India. And to overcome this deficit and provide a more clean and alternative renewable energy source, India started Solar Power Park scheme. We give you a lowdown about the scheme in this report. Take a look.
India's massive solar power park scheme holds immense investment potential. According to a think tank, India could attract investment worth 500 to 700 billion US dollars in its solar power scheme. Though the problem India faced is scattering of solar power projects around the country, and to overcome these challenges, the scheme for development of solar parks and ultra mega solar power projects was rolled out in 2014. What is solar park? A solar park is a concentrated zone of development of solar power generation projects and provides developers an area that is well constructed with proper infrastructure, access to amenities, and by minimizing paperwork for project implementation. Solar power projects targeting over 20,000 megawatt of solar power installed capacity within a span of 5 years starting from 2014 to 15. The capacity of the scheme has been enhanced from 20,000 megawatt to 40,000 megawatt in 2017. The scheme envisages supporting the states and union territories in setting up solar parks at various locations in the country with a view to create required infrastructure for setting up of solar power projects. The scheme facilitates and speeds up installation of grid-connected solar power projects for electricity generation on a large scale. Cumulative capacity of solar power projects is 5,389 megawatt in Rajasthan, 3,918 megawatt in Gujarat, and 4,315 megawatt in Tamil Nadu. The government has also planned to establish 10,000 megawatt of solar and wind hybrid projects in Ladakh, for which various actions have already been initiated. In fact, the ultra mega solar power projects in Rajasthan, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu and Ladakh have been proposed in these places with Rs 500 crore earmarked for the purpose. The government is keen to develop green city in every state powered by renewable energy, which is in line with India's aim of sustainable development. Taposh Bhattacharya's report, DD India.
All right, so that was the report which talked of the growth of the solar parks in the country. Mr. Vuttukuri, when we talk of, the scale at which solar energy has been harnessed and has been, progressed in the country, what are the factors that helped in? Just a while back, Mr. Goyal was talking of how India is proving to be a big market for the energy sector, for the world to invest in the energy sector. What are the key factors that have positioned us to this?
Oh, I think it's a good question. Fundamentally, India has been fully depending on coal sector, as we all know, mostly, and very little bit of hydel resources we have been using. So this is absolutely a technology revolution is happening with renewables. In the last 20 years, if we take 2009, we did not have even 1 megawatt of solar capacity in the country, which was producing power. Today we have got 35,000 megawatt of solar capacity in the country. And what price we used to buy power at? We used to buy power at, the power from solar plants at about 17 rupees per kilowatt hour way back in 2010. Today, the price of solar power has come down to 1 rupee 99 paisa. If you see recent bid, 1 rupee 99 paisa. It is almost like 10%. It may not be 10%, 13-14% of the price at which the cost of power generation used to happen with solar 10 years back. This has mainly happened because there is a substantial installation of solar power plants are happening globally. The cost of equipment of solar power generation has come down drastically. That has led to and also the efficiency of the solar panels have improved quite a lot. Solar cells and panels have improved quite a lot. These two are the factors why the cost has dropped substantially. This is going to be an energy revolution. It is all going to be solar revolution going forward. And we are going to implement more of electric vehicles and all that. With electric vehicles requiring electricity, this is going to be a huge thing. The fundamental reason is because governments, especially I think Mr. Modi's government, in the last 2 terms has given a lot of, interest for renewables and stated that, would like to add 450,000 megawatt renewable energy capacity in by 2030. That's a huge target. The total installed power capacity what I got is only 350,000 in the country. And you want to add more than existing whatever we have done in the last 70 years. We want to do same thing in 10 years time, by adding about 450,000 megawatt. So this is actually attracting huge investments worldwide. Everybody is looking at India because the question is whether we'll be able to consume so much of power. We will be able to consume power because overseas, India is one of the lowest per capita consumption countries in the world. We are not even at an average world per capita consumption. So we are 1/3 of Chinese.
Is it because of this only that we've achieved the initial target of 20 gigawatt for 2022, like 4 years ahead of schedule?
Correct. We have been able to achieve that, and of course we have got another target of 1 lakh megawatt we want to achieve by 2022-23. We may not be able to meet that, maybe 1 or 2 years delay thanks to COVID and various other infrastructure issues. But then we are moving in the right direction. We are definitely going to add 1 lakh megawatt in next couple of years, and 35,000 we have already added. About 65,000 has to be added. We will be adding in couple of years, and 4,25,000, 4,50,000 megawatt, whatever is stated, is a huge attractive target. So that's the reason many of the large, if you see Europe is not able to deploy their monies. So they don't have much opportunities to expand their economies.
Right.
So they're all, many of the insurance funds and pension funds are flooded with huge money. They're not able to deploy, and the interest rates, they're not able to earn any money when they put money into their banks. All these insurance and pension funds are moving their money to India and investing into the assets like solar, because these assets are annuity income assets.
Right.
There are no risks. So the lot of investments is coming into India, and 450,000 megawatt is definitely going to happen. And very important point in the whole thing, but we are importing 95%, 19 to 95% of our entire equipment requirement from China. and a couple of other countries in and around India. Most of it is from China. I think we definitely need to, if you want to make India self-sufficient, Atmanirbhar Bharat, the opportunity with 450,000 megawatt targets, what you have, the huge opportunity. We can build
Huge
much larger
opportunity. All
automobile
right.
industry.
I'll take this question of opportunities to Mr. Praveen, to Dr. Praveen Saxena. Sir, we're talking of opportunities and how this is the apt time to, make use of it. Let's also bring in the employment generation angle into this, and also given, the huge market which we have become for the world, and also when we talk of you also pointed out how it could trigger the startups also, success for the startups. Talk more about it, put all this together, and how far will this all put together help in achieving self-reliance or Atmanirbharta for the country as a whole?
Thank you very much once again. In fact, we are very clearly seeing a highest possible opportunity for our manpower in the renewable energy sector. If I give you a very ballpark figure, if we are talking of a solar park on a large megawatt size project, for per megawatt we need about 6 people, full-time jobs of 6 people for a megawatt. And if we are talking of decentralized power generation like rooftop solar, where we have a target of about 40,000 megawatts to be achieved in next 2 years, and if not, as Sai Babaji was saying, that maybe if not 2 years, it may be 3 years or something like that, then we need about 20 people per megawatt installations and maintenance, and so this is the kind of numbers we have. We as Skill India Mission look at renewable energy as the biggest possible opportunity for our manpower, not only nationally but internationally.
Yes.
I would also like to mention that during our effort to make our manpower skilled in the renewable energy sector, we are conscious that this is a huge market not only for India but for Africa and Middle East. So our trainings are aligned to international requirements. We do actually 2 level of training. One, a base level of training for installations and operations and maintenance. Second, we do as per the international requirements. We as Skill India Mission look at these things extremely positively and with lot of opportunities. This is one aspect of it. Second is that solar entrepreneurship is comparatively much cheaper. I mean, a small group of 1 or 2 or 3 boys can certainly start installation of solar systems, which can go up to the smaller towns, the rural areas, and they can become a resource for us for even pushing the target of achieving electricity generation. The biggest advantage with solar in particular is that the installation time is extremely low. If we talk of in the same renewable energy sector, if we talk of wind, for example, or a small hydro or biomass, they in fact small hydro sometimes take 4 to 5 years, even a smaller project. Whereas a solar project, if it has to be installed on a rooftop, could be done in probably 3 to 4 days time. And we have seen that even the megawatt size projects are done in a few weeks. So it has lot of opportunity because the technology is completely foolproof now, very fast to install, and hence the startup people are able to actually don't have to wait much for a return. These are some of the important points where we are trying to actually create now district level committees. We are also trying to create a center of excellence for skilling, and
Yes.
moving ahead, trying to take fullest advantage of Government of India mission reaching up to the ground level.
All right, Mr. Goyal, I would want your comments herein. We were talking of the International Solar Alliance and how the creation of this alliance has led to further harnessing of solar energy in the country. But also we've seen how in the beginning and till date many countries had expressed their willingness to join the alliance, which talked of which eventually showed on the world page the influence India can have on a global page. So when we talk of this International Solar Alliance and the countries also who joined later on into the alliance, what is your take on that? Apart from we being a market for renewable energy, once we become self-sufficient, we also can offer more to the world on the global page as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think it's a wonderful question from your side. And I would also, when I answer this question, I would also like to add some of the points from the government of India for creating the market, and there's a pre-budget consultation going on.
Yes.
And then, as a representative of the industry, working with an industry and this European company where I have been working, I would also like to give the suggestion as an and you can take it as a final comment from my side. So first of all, this International Solar Alliance, which was established in 2015, 13 November 2015, when the Indian Prime Minister visited Paris as a part of the Paris climate change. So as part of this India and France bilateral collaboration, they decided to set up this International Solar Alliance. And we as an Indian should be very proud that, because this is the first time in the history international organization headquarter has been set up in Gurgaon, New Delhi, with the objective of solar harnessing of the solar energy system in India. And the government of France, just to share with you, since I'm working very closely with the government of France, they have given 1.5 billion euro as a funding through their Agence Française de Développement, French development agency, to their project in the Middle East. So these projects would be set up in consultation with the companies. So I think it's a very proud moment for all of us. And as any international organization grows, it takes time to develop. And you will see recently many countries who initially hesitated to join this alliance have recently joined, like Japan, Australia, and some other countries at the latest. So I think from the Indian point of view and our viewers' perspective, they should look into very deeply, I mean, where this money is going on. 1.5 billion euro is a very, very big money, around 10,000 crores, and how to utilize this money for the development of the solar energy. Another comment, as I said, the government of India is also taking a lot of incentives. So in November 2020, the Union Cabinet has approved the production link incentive scheme for solar PV and batteries. So I think with the government has delivered on its promise to encourage manufacturing with direct intervention, especially for the solar PV manufacturing.
Yes.
And battery chemistry, as the government notification call it, it will focus mainly on manufacturing of the newer technology batteries, starting with lithium iron. So this PLI scheme is the aim of getting more efficient, and it will make manufacturing easier in India, leading to the job creation for sunrise sector.
Right.
So I think if you look at these numbers for this advanced chemistry cells battery sector, the outlays of impressive 18,000 crores. And ACC batteries are rechargeable batteries that can be used in the consumer electronics, electrical vehicles, and renewable energy. And the implementation agency is going to be NITI Aayog. Now, come back to that solar PV manufacturing sector. We have seen a flurry of announcements related to the manufacturing plans. There's an approximately 5,000 crore outlay. And the cabinet notes that the strategic nature of this sector and the need to make solar supply chain more resilient. So this PLI incentive should nudge quite a few plans to move from the planning sector to the execution now, and with the MNRE as the implementing agencies. So since Mr. Saiba is there, I think a company like Vikram Solar, they are, I think, understood they are opening a factory maybe next month in Tamil Nadu. So company like Vikram Solar or Renew Power, Azure, Adani, and many of these existing Indian manufacturers. So this scheme will certainly push to the manufacturing plants, job creation, and the Pradhan Mantri's vision of the Atmanirbhar Bharat
Yes.
and achieving 175 gigawatt by 2022 and 450 gigawatt by 2022. Since the last thing from my side, I will be very quick. Since
Yes.
it's a pre-budget consultation are going on. I have also been invited to the finance ministry to give
Okay.
few points. So through your channels as an industry, and I would like to mention few things if you permit me. So I would like to recommend few things from the industry standpoint. Maybe if MNRE people
Yes.
are listening, you can take care of that. So there should be number one. There should be 5% in interest subvention on the term loan and working capital. Upfront central financial assistance up to 30% on capex. Increase export incentive from 2 to 8% under the remission of duties on taxes on the export products. So it will really help the Indian manufacturers to export, leading to the job creation in India. And as Mr. Sai Baba mentioned about this Chinese imports in India,
Yes.
so there has been a long time demand of the Indian industry that there should be a basic custom duty with exemptions to the specific economic zone based solar manufacturing and the production link plan. And so I recommend the government to reconsider this implementing tariff barrier for at least 4 to 5 years, offering a capital subsidy of 50% for setting up R&D sector and quality testing manufacturing. within
All right,
the
so these are the concerns which you've put forward. Mr. Vutukuri, Mr. Goyal talked of solar TVs, he talked of electrical items, and also earlier also we were talking of how India has achieved the target, say 4 years in ahead of the schedule. So, what are other areas apart from agriculture, apart from like, irrigation or rural sector, wherein the solar energy can be tapped, renewable energy can be further tapped? I mean, like, what is the national solar potential, if this would be the exact question to you, and what are specific areas wherein the solar energy can further be used, say railways or electrical vehicles or the solar TVs which Mr. Goyal just mentioned?
That's a very good question. I think Mr. Goyal has covered most of the points as far as the industry requirements are concerned. I'm in agreement with him completely. Very important points where the solar energy can penetrate. It can penetrate into all the industries. It can penetrate. Every house can have its own solar power, produce the power, and consume it then and there. It can create huge amount of employment. Like Mr. Praveen Saxena has mentioned, huge possibilities there. Apart from that, small and medium scale industries, they pay power cost close to about 5, 6, 7, 8 rupees. Today, solar can be produced at 1 rupee 99 paisa, 2 rupees. So they can actually reduce and many of the industries, power cost is one of the major component of their manufacturing. If they can allow the power to be produced and fed into the grid as a net metering kind of a thing for each and every small and medium industries, the entire small and medium industries manufacturing sector could become very, very competitive. So it is extremely important that this net metering thing is allowed across the industries, so that the cost of power itself for the industries can be substantially reduced, and their manufacturing, their competitiveness in the international market will substantially improve. Apart from agriculture sector and apart from residential uses of power, I think right place for solar is rooftops, not centralized farms. In my opinion, the rooftop segment is something should be fully encouraged, and it can generate huge amount of employment. Amount of employment. Probably this could be the main source of employment in the Indian economy. Thank you.
All right, I'll take that forward to Dr. Saxena. Dr. Saxena, would you also echo the same optimism and positivity? Mr. Goyal has put forth the concerns of the industry, and Mr. Vutukuri presented this optimism of how solar energy, in particular, or for that matter, renewable energy as a whole, can be used for, in daily lives as well. What is your take on that? And also, your closing comments on that. Would you take forward this optimism and positivity as well?
Sure, 100% sure. In fact, my entire career has been in renewable energy. One or two small points which were not directly answered. One, you asked about the solar potential. So a calculated solar potential for India is about 900,000 megawatts. And what we have achieved so far is only 36 or 37,000 megawatts. So we have almost unlimited potential, and that potential was sort of calculated based on 5% of wasteland and things like that. So huge potential. There is no depth of that. Second point was that International Solar Alliance is giving such a big opportunity. 86 countries have already become member. So that was a small point. I think we were we missed on telling to our viewers. Optimism with solar is huge. In fact, I would completely echo the suggestion of Mr. Sai Baba that every industry should have a solar rooftop system with them. In fact, the new sheds and new industry should inherently plan generation of electricity from solar. It is not only just for the sake of promoting renewable energy, but this would bring their electrical consumption, which for industry is not 6-7 rupees, it is 12 rupees, 12 rupees plus. So can be brought down definitely on an average to 5 to 6 rupees. So I would earnestly request all our viewers to promote this concept of rooftop, which becomes extremely important apart from the larger size projects, which are also certainly giving a market to our country. A very optimistic kind of a situation as far as renewables is concerned in our country.
All right, so all our guests there expressing their optimism and positivity about the road ahead when we talk of tapping the potential of renewable energy in the sector, in the country, in fact, which eventually will lead to achieving Atmanirbharta or self-reliance, which ultimate is the aim of the administration for an Atmanirbhar Bharat. On that positive note, we'll end this discussion here. Thank you so much, all three of you, Mr. Goyal, Mr. Vutukuri, and Dr. Saxena, for joining us and sharing in your insights on the show. So with this, we come to the end of this special edition of Budget 2020-21, wherein we talked about the scope, the potential of renewable energy in the country, specifically talking of solar energy, and what is the road ahead, the journey ahead in tapping this potential to achieve Atmanirbharta or self-reliance. Tomorrow again, we will be back with a fresh issue, a fresh topic on one such topic, wherein we will discuss the different aspects on how that particular stream, that particular issue can help in achieving self-reliance. As of now, that's it from my side. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.